Welcome to the Wolff Den, presented by Win Again Academy. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Time Machine. Today we welcome Clinton Sparks to the Den. Welcome.
Thank you for the invite.
Great. I'm excited to chat. As people might be able to tell, if look from the back, music is one of my biggest passions, and so anytime I could talk about music, it's a win for me on the day. But there's going to be so much more than that. So for the people who don't know who you are, give them a quick intro, and we'll get to it.
Oh boy, I'm a guy from Boston, Mass. That did well for himself.
All right. Well, we'll get into all that. Speaking of Boston, Mass, I had my friend Dan from Randolph High said to give you a shout out. He said you were a great athlete and very talented back then. Dan Hoffenberg, class at 94.
Wait, Dan who?
Hoffenberg?
I probably would know his face.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. Yeah, I went to high school at Randolph High. That's where I graduated from. That's when my mom sent me to the suburbs because I was getting in too much trouble in the city. So I moved to a town called Randolph and went to high school there.
It's like a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Kind of, back then it was kind of like you either listen to like rap or heavy metal. So when I moved to the suburbs, it was just like, it's like different groups of kids. The headbanger kids were over here that wore like an Iron Maiden shirt and a jean jacket. And then these kids then the jocks were over there. And then like the city kids are over here. So it's funny how times have changed. And now everybody just kind of all meshes together. But it was very separated back when I was a kid.
And what were you? Who were you? What were you wearing?
I was everybody. So I was the kid that would go in the lunchroom and I would sit with, the Asian kids, the jocks, the black kids, the kids that are downstairs. You don't even know what they're doing all day until you see them in the cafeteria. So I was the one that like kind of sat with all the tables and cared about everybody and took interest because I was everybody. To give you an idea, when I was growing up, I was the kid that would, by the way, I stole all these things. I didn't have money to buy it. So I'd go to the store and I would steal Circus Magazine, Word Up Magazine, Fangoria Magazine, and Mad Magazine. So you can see I was a whole bunch of people in one kid.
How about music-wise? Were you were all music back then?
Yeah, I mean, Circus was a heavy metal magazine and Word Up was a hip-hop magazine. So I was into everything. Like, look, I grew up in the time where we listened to the radio and it was MTV, right? So you had Michael Jackson, a Duran Duran, a Culture Club, to Prince, to Commodores, to Earth, Wind and Fire, to Parliament. So I listened to everything as a kid. Plus, like, I took interest in the time before my life too. So I cared about, because my mom, and stuff would play music. So I was really up to speed on like television shows, movies, music, and all that stuff prior to my life, which gave me even more robust understanding of different generations and different genres because of my mom.
My mom was probably the biggest influence in me liking music. And shout out to my mom. Today is her birthday. Happy
birthday, Mom.
I think she turns 59 again for a few times.
I was about to say, when you said 59, I was going to say, you look old as shit for your age.
I actually look, I'm a lot older than I look. I'm 47 and I can pass if I could pass for a little bit younger than that. But
I think our generation is the first generation that, because remember when we were kids, 50 was like a fucking 100. You know what I mean? Like, and now like we're knocking on 50's door, and I still feel like maybe it's just because it's me saying it, but like I feel like I almost look the same as I looked when I was 33.
I could see that.
So like I mean, you could tell a little bit he's aged a little bit, but it's not like, wow, he's old now. You know what I mean?
No, you have a young look. But the craziest thing that hit me about age, I don't have any kids, but when I realized looking back in high school that some of these teachers were like 4 years older than us. I used to think they were all 50, 60.
And they look 75, yeah.
Some of them were like 24, just out of college and teaching. It's crazy to think now that they were just a few years older than us, right?
Well, when you think about it, we're the first. Are you a father?
No, I don't have any kids. I know you are like a 3-year-old, 2-year-old.
I have 3 kids. Yeah.
3.
So this is the first generation. My generation is the first generation that wasn't far removed from our kids. Like prior to me, my parents and then their parents, they didn't understand what we were doing as kids. They're
Yeah.
like, ah, you kids, what music are you listening to? That hip hop, bebop, whatever that shit is. Like now we listen to the same music. We all listen to Spotify. We all watch Netflix. We all watch the same news. Like, who the fuck watched news when we were kids? You know what I mean? Like that was something my grandfather would do. And you walk over like, why is he always watching the news? Right. But like we all care and about the same things now. So it really closed the generation gap between parents and kids on the differences in where they are in their lives because of technology and because of social media and because of all these things that we all do together. So it's not like you guys do that, we do this, and it's super foreign. We're all living in the same spaces.
Yeah, and I think music is one of those things that you'll hear a lot of stories about the people and the parents who introduced them to music, whether it was bringing them to the first show or, hey, I'm driving you guys around. This is what you're gonna listen to.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we listen to.
Well, fortunately, my mom listened to like Hall and Oates and
Great.
Michael Jackson. So like I was getting the best that music had to provide at that time from my mom.
My mom loves all music, but she was a doo-wop,
Oh
back,
yeah.
which I don't mind because I'm more of a catchy tune person than necessarily the lyrics, like the slow ones with good lyrics. I like it all now, but I listened to music. I didn't really get to be such a music fanatic until I got to college. And then it's like today it's aside from family, obviously, yeah, it's one of the most important things to me is music. And if I only had to choose one thing that I could do, whether it's music, watch movies, watch TV, watch sports, I wouldn't give up music. That's the one thing I would never give up.
Well, music is the common denominator. I mean, think about every celebratory moment in your life from graduating to birthdays to Christmas to whatever it is. Imagine it without music. You know what I mean? So I don't even know what the world would be without music.
Yeah, it would not be. I don't either. It's definitely not
I mean,
something.
imagine walking in
Think.
and ladies and gentlemen, now Mr. and Mrs. Wolff and
Yeah.
like no music. Like what? Like you're walking down the aisle, it's your birthday, like whatever it is, like no music ever. Like what a boring world.
Need to Breathe, Great Night. That was the song that we came into. I got married 3 years ago. You
Nice.
remember?
I think I walked out to Jigga my that's what I came out to. I think it was bam, 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 bam. Ladies and gentlemen, dun, 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 dun. And I just walked out to that Jigga. What's my motherfucking name?
Yeah, it's that's a you got to get hyped. It's a moment to get hyped for. Um, but so music is your life, and we're going to talk about it's not your only life, but that's what brought you to fame and a lot of the success that you have through music. When did you think or know that was going to be your thing? That music is my thing.
Well, so I know I was being like reserved on introducing myself at the beginning, but for someone watching, maybe I should elaborate a little bit so someone is like, why should I even listen to this guy? So I'm a Grammy nominated multi-platinum producer, songwriter, DJ, sold over 75 million records, worked with everybody from Eminem to Kanye to Rick Ross, 2 Chainz, Big Sean, Ludacris, Akon, Pitbull, Beyonce, Flo Rida, Snoop Dogg, you name it. Lady Gaga, who I got a Grammy nomination for. In fact, the record Bloody Mary had a resurgence recently because of the Netflix show Wednesday. So it just gained like another 300 million streams on Spotify. So I've done that. I was P. Diddy's tour DJ. I helped Eminem launch Shade 45. I was a host on E! News for 5 years. I was the music guy on E! News with Ryan Seacrest and all those guys. I built my own syndicated radio show in 22 markets around the world. A whole bunch of stuff like that, cool stuff that has to do with music. So, yeah, that's what I was doing. So I wanted to preface it because when I talk now, it make more sense because you're like, oh, okay, this dude knows what's up, right?
Yeah.
So otherwise, just saying I'm a guy from Boston that did well from stuff, like, why would I listen to this asshole?
No, I get it. I mean, that's generally speaking, I want people to introduce themselves. I always find it weird when someone else introduces someone else, like just canned stuff, which I think it's better.
Well, let me get you familiar. The people that are told to introduce themselves feel way more weird introducing themselves than you do introducing them. Like it's awkward to say, look how awesome I am. Look at all these amazing things I've done. it's better when somebody else says it and you can
Yeah,
just,
I get that, but it also could just be, look, I spent 25 years in the music business, um, and so it's but I liken it to a funeral when someone is talking
yeah, the
about.
dead guy never says what he did with his life.
No, I mean the officiants in a wedding and a funeral, they basically don't even know who they're talking about. They just are told. So anyway, it's we'll move on from that. So you've done well in the music world. What got you started? When did you think I'm going to be in this, and how did you get your break?
Well, the long, 12-year story from that to that really was I was a lonely kid when I was young. My father was an alcoholic and left us, and my mother worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs. Uh, I was lonely, bullied, broke. So my radio was my best friend, and I just really took to music. Plus, again, back to my mom, I would ride in her school bus because she was a school bus driver. So in the morning, we'd go to the yard at like 5 a.m. and we'd listen to like Prince's album or something because she brought her own radio. So my mother really, I think, really put music inside me because whether she was cleaning the house or I'm riding in the back of her car or in her bus, it was always music. So my radio was my best friend. I hung out my radio a lot. And then I would, I was a rapper, I was a dancer, I was a beatboxer, I was a DJ, I was everything you can do in music, I did. So as I was getting older and then I became a criminal, I ended up stealing turntables and stuff. And then all the older kids would come to my house and I would DJ and play beats while they would rap. And then I went on to start forming my own groups and performing myself. So I'd go out and start winning all the talent shows. I choreographed all the cheerleaders in my high school. I would take over the high school rallies and perform. I was just always a performer. So how I went into like this has got to be real now, because back then becoming famous or successful or becoming a really well-known artist or Hollywood star, that was all like a pipe dream. Nobody thought that was real, right? Like today, everybody thinks they can be the most famous guy next week, but back then it was like that's unrealistic. It's like hitting the lottery. So when I ended up getting a job at UPS when I was like 20 years old, 3 years later, I hurt my spine, had to get spinal surgery. And I realized I didn't graduate high school. I couldn't do hard labor anymore. So this music thing that I was doing as like my passion and as I guess, a hobby, I got to turn this is what I have to do with the rest of my life. So I just made a plan, stuck with that plan, stayed focused, even though people would say this makes no sense. You're a white dude from Boston trying to make it in hip hop. You don't know anybody. You don't have any money. I made a plan and I didn't think it was unrealistic. I knew if in my mind that if this is what I wanted to do, all I had to do was keep doing it and it was going to happen. I'll figure out how to make it happen. So that's the super short version of the story.
Tony Parker was in the NBA, got into the Hall of Fame, and had a great part of his speech yesterday, or last week, I think, which was, if you tell someone your dreams and they don't laugh at you, you're not dreaming big enough. Yep. And that kind of sounds like sort of your path.
Well, the thing is, like, look, most people, and this sounds negative, but most people don't have a drive to win. Most people don't have a skill that they believe in so much, or a dream that they believe in so much, that they'll do anything to make it happen. So when they can't do stuff like that, they can't fathom that you can. Yeah. So instead of saying, yeah, you should do it, or I believe you can do that, they're like, they're going to give you all the excuses why it won't work, because they're kind of talking to themselves, right? So throughout my life, it's been kind of the common denominator that I've always been met with resistance and doubt. And I don't look at that as negative. I just sort of kind of almost feel bad that they're so limiting themselves that they feel like I should be limited too. But I've never let other people's limitations weigh in on me, because that's what might be good for them. It's not for me, right? So I've always realized that, one of the things I got most of my life was, man, you do so many things. How do you do so much? When do you sleep, right? So I would get those things all the time. And I would think, how do you not? Like, if you're trying to win and be successful and have the life that you want, how are you not doing all the things that I'm doing? So I never understood that concept when people didn't believe in, my work ethic or how I achieve. I mean, dude, I couldn't even go down the line of how many times people have doubted me and then later on came and like gave me my credit and my just due, or how many times people didn't believe that I was doing this or that, then came and see me and like, holy shit. Like, so like it's, and like, I don't do things to prove other people wrong. I do them to prove myself right.
Yeah.
Uh, because I believe in, if I know I'm going to do something, I want to do it, then I'm going to get it done, and I'll keep doing it until I get it done, which is why I don't fail, because I never quit.
That's my story. Like I couldn't get out of my own way. I had so many good ideas, all the stuff I wanted to do and should have done, but just didn't. That's the just do it is the greatest slogan ever created.
Yeah, I mean that's most people's. I mean, think about the saying. Like even somebody watching now, like how many times you'll come up with an idea and then you'll say something like, "Man, somebody should do that." Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Like, why do you, man, somebody should figure out how to do this and that, or man, I wish they would do this now so we could that. Then be the person that does it. If you can think about it and if you think it's solving a problem, especially a problem that you have, or you think it's a great idea, what in the world is stopping you? Oh, you're going to give me the excuse, I don't have the money. Oh, my job, I have a full-time job, so I have no time. Where I live, I don't have any connections. We all come from that.
Yeah. There's always
Everybody that's come up with the great ideas and went on to be super successful, you think they had all the connections and all the money and everything was handed to them? So like when people say things to me, like when I give them advice, or they'll say, "Oh, you can do that because you're Clinton Sparks." I always turn around and say, "No, I became Clinton Sparks that because I did the things I'm telling you to do now."
Yeah, there's always a roadblock, and to be honest, the first one is always the most difficult one. Doesn't mean it's easy after that, but once you've convinced yourself that I'm going to do this, there should be no stopping you. I mean, short of something that just can't be done. And that's what it was for me, is that I just kept telling myself, I can't do this. And then I found the ticket time machine idea, and I said, there's nothing that's going to stop me from doing this. And I'm still nowhere near where I need to be, but I went from an idea in my head to let me play around with this, to I quit my job, I'm all in on this, and here we are today. So
Well,
yeah,
that's what people don't do, especially when they get older, is take a risk because they feel they have too much to lose, right? And I look at it the opposite. I have too much to lose if I don't do this,
I agree with that.
right? So if I stay safe and go get, $100,000, $200,000 job, and that's just what the rest of my life is, I'm never going to be able to build past what that life can provide me, because I limited myself to just being at the mercy of what I can do, what I can afford, what time I have now because of this job,
Yeah.
right? So I've built my life by design and not by circumstance, and that's how most people live their lives, is by circumstance, and they use those circumstances as excuses on why they can't build the life by design that they would choose to have.
Well, I lost my dad in '05, and I always kind of felt this way. But for me, it's like, look, we're not promised anything. That's 18 years ago. Try and live my life for the moment, for the now, and not worry about what's happening 5 years from now or 10 years. And obviously keeping an eye on the future, because you could live for so long. Uh, your father and the stuff, is that something that really shaped the way you think about your life in the world, or was there some other incident or experience?
Oh man, I had like 10 lives by the time I was like 18. So there's a lot of things that kind of shaped who I am, that, you pick from that, you filter out that, you hold on to that, you let go of this. So I've lived a pretty robust life, which gives me much more of an understanding of a wide variety of different people, right? Because of the life that I lived, being in tough neighborhoods. So look, I've been rich, I've been poor, right? I've been around I lived in black neighborhoods. I've lived in white neighborhoods. My mother early on, she would have lesbians and gay dudes in our house all the time because they were her friends. So like one dude was a cross dresser, you know what I mean? So like he'd come out and do fantastic twirls and perform for us and stuff, right? And I'm like, I'm 11 years old, so like none of these things were weird to me, and none of them were like, oh, I don't understand these people, because to me they were just people, right? That had different ways of expressing themselves, or had different backgrounds, different interests. but like I was exposed to so much so young that I never not included or considered everybody when I was thinking about, making music or building a business or making friends or building a company and having different diverse people in it. So like to me, like diversity isn't something I need to be conscious of. It's something that I am and that I live in my regular life. So I think that's kind of what shaped me was the exposure to so many different people and cultures, and you know being homeless at one point to you know, getting in trouble with the law, being a criminal and understanding like how to do that, being broke, my father being molested for several years. Like there was so many things that happened throughout my life that you pick up strength and knowledge and information that most people, kind of leave by the wayside and don't realize the value that you're gaining by the things happening to you right now. And instead they just complain about it or, woe is me about it instead of like, man, this is really valuable. I learned how to survive. I learned how to upgrade my witticism. I learned how to be more clever. I learned how to think critically than I could have before, or like I understand other people's feelings. I understand the psychology of why certain people do certain things. Like, but that's like you have to like care about the world and life to really accept those things and then know what to do with them when you do accept those. So, people go through their life not understand certain people or not understand how to communicate well, or, whether you're in a fight with your wife all the time or your business partner, or, people don't like you because the way you are. And it's like, it's pretty simple to figure out how to live a life as you'll never be totally free, but as combatively free as possible
Yeah.
when you just care enough to understand the needs and feelings of other people as much as you do yourself. But
I
then that goes backwards to like understanding yourself. Most people don't even understand themselves.
I agree. One of the things about me is I have a very good understanding of who I am, including all my faults and the stuff trying to be better every day or be a good
Well,
person.
let's ask your wife that, because everybody thinks they have great self-awareness.
Yeah, well, I'll ask her. She doesn't watch the Wolf Den nearly as much as she should, but I think she would. I think she would agree with that. But it really, there is a lot of truth to the whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But the part about that is it doesn't just happen. You have to work at it and want it and have that ability to care and to do.
Yeah,
It just doesn't happen.
right.
I want to talk a little bit about your when you talk about being a criminal and stealing. Obviously, you gotten some second and third chances. Did you ever think you were that close to not getting another chance, and then none of this would be?
Yeah. Well, there was a turning point from like I was well on my path to being a career criminal. I've got arrested plenty of times, and I was really good at it. I won't go into depth of like how much I was getting into the crime syndicate, but um, there was a point where we were staking out a bank for a couple weeks, and a day before we were going to do the job, something hit me. I think I was 19, and I realized, man, if we get bought for this, man, like my life is over. And so I backed out. Those two guys still did it, got away with it. It worked out. But I was happy that I didn't, and that was the kind of the beginning. Something else significant just happened to me. My girlfriend at the time, her father found some snowblowers that I stole and hid behind his garage, and she told me that he called me a loser. And I've never been impacted by words like that before, because I was running through my life unguided, right? And it was kind of like the first uh, male role model that I respected that said something to identify me negatively, right?
Did you ever get to
That
talk
met
to him about that?
what?
Did you ever get to talk to him about that? It sounds like a powerful conversation could have been had.
I don't know if I ever told him. Um, But yeah, when she told me he said that, it hit me, and that was like the same time as the bank thing. So I looked what we used to do back in the day, look in the back of the paper for a job, and I seen UPS was hiring. Shout out to Biz Marquee, and I went and got a job at UPS, and I took my music and my criminal work ethic, and I turned it into work ethic, and just became really good at working. Even throughout my childhood, I always had multiple. I always had people used to call me Heyman from Living Color because I always had like 3, 4 jobs. So like I'm doing a warehouse, I'm delivering papers, I'm working for a moving company, like all those types of things, shoveling snow. I was always a hustler. Even at like 12 years old, I built my first company with the help of my mom called Rent a Teen, where I would get all the local teenagers and I would hire them to clean people's homes, wash their cars, take out their trash, go to the store for them, and then I would take a nick of every teenager that we would hire. So I understood like kind of everything from salesmanship to marketing to entrepreneurship to survival to communication, like all the crucial things that can make you a successful person in business and life. I learned them pretty early, and I held on to them. I retained the importance of understanding and learning all these
And
things.
that's from your mom, mostly pushing you to do that or helping you to do that.
No, my mom never pushed me to do anything, and I don't mean that negatively. My mom was busy trying to, pay the bills. Um, as broke as we were, it's funny at the time. Most people, at the time when you're broke, except now because we have social media, but back then you didn't even realize how broke you were, right? So my mom always had dinner on the table. My mom always made Christmas seem like we were rich,
Yeah.
right? So like, and I don't know how she did it because like we were broke and she was always working. So no, my mom didn't push me to do anything in life. Um, uh, but she did help with that Rent-A-Teen thing for sure, and she did support my music aspirations. And like, I think she paid for my first legitimate recording studio at a studio called Platinum Sound in Jamaica Plain when I was like, I don't know, 15.
How did you get? Let's talk about the music world and your success and uh, career there. What what was the big break? You're working at UPS. You got a job at a radio station, I believe. Correct? Is that how it started?
Yeah, I still don't even feel like I had my big break. So I just feel like it's a consistent sequence of positive results from hard work. So yeah, I mean, I'm like, all right, I got to make this music shit happen. I made a mixtape and I shoveled some driveways, got enough uh, gas money to drive all the way down to the Carolinas from Boston. And I would just look for anybody or anything that looked like it cared about hip hop or mixtape. So whether it was a barber shop, a sneaker shop, a record store, some kids walking down the street, a guy at a red light playing hip hop in his loud ass system, like whatever it was, I was literally running around hand to hand, introducing myself, saying, "You need to get familiar with me. My name's Clinton Sparks." So
People are still doing that. You go to the big cities, they're still walking around with CDs and trying to get you to buy them or
yeah,
listen.
well, that's most of that's a scam. And then second of all, like nobody's buying a CD. No one has a CD player.
Yeah.
You're out of date, bro. Like your business model is over. Step it up, right? uh, so yeah, but back then, when you gave somebody something free, people were fucking pumped to
Yeah,
get something free. Now you hand someone a CD, like, ah, man, I don't want this shit.
yeah.
Uh, but like, yeah, it was a different time back then. So that's what I did. And I would also drive to New York and stand in front of record labels waiting for someone that looked like an executive to be coming to the door and say, "Hey man, you work here at Def Jam?" You know what I mean? And they'd be like, "Yeah, why? What's up?" And then I would literally have 10 seconds to tell them why they should be familiar with me. So I did that, man. It was a lot of hand-to-hand combat, getting people familiar with me, a lot of guerrilla marketing, a lot of really out here in the streets. And then to your point, the local radio station DJ I would start making remixes and mixes and intros for him. So this comes to being a value add. And then when artists would come to town, I'd go get drops and then I'd give them to him. I'd get him drops so he would look better. So by helping to make him look better, then open up the door for him to like want to present and promote stuff I was doing. So when I would sit in the radio station with him, I'd hear him on the phone with record executives who are asking him to play their records, and he would say, "Man, you should hear this remix by my boy Clinton Sparks." And I would see that they'd be like, "Who the fuck's Clinton Sparks? Who cares? Are you playing my record?" So then I thought to myself, "Oh shit, if I become a DJ, then all these executives will want to be my friend because they want me to play their shit.
Yep.
And then at the very least, I'll get a courtesy listen because now we're friendly. So that was the kind of eureka moment where I realized how to take one of my skills to put it to work to get me to where I really wanted to be, which ultimately was in business. Like I never even wanted to be a DJ. That wasn't my goal. It just worked out. Right. So I just kept running with it and then building other things at the
Yeah,
same
getting
time.
your foot in the door is always the number one thing. It doesn't matter how you do it, whether you're the janitor or you're, getting coffee and
Yeah.
do
Hey,
start.
Matt, can you hold on 1 second?
Yeah, absolutely. This is how we roll on the Wolff Den. Live content. I'm wearing my Kosher Dills shirt. I don't know if you know who Kosher Dills is, but he's a hustler, hip hop, Jewish hip hop, and he did a lot of the stuff that you talked about. You were doing, and yeah, he's gotten himself. His saying is, "We're on the outside till we're inside," and the hustle is. Especially there's so many people vying for attention for in music and entertainment, but music specifically. You just got to try and get in front of people and let people know who you are. Are you familiar with Kosher Dills?
Say what?
Are you familiar with Kosher Dills?
Kosher Dills?
Kosher Dills. He's a white rapper, Jewish rapper. He does a lot of the hustling. He's always in New York City and outside of the Grammys and all of the places just doing. He got on Wild and Out with
Nick
Nick.
Cannon?
Yeah, he did some episodes. He's a freestyle rapper.
Nice. No, I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff. He's getting visible. It's just more about the hustle that you said that first got you in there, in the door. And it's
Yeah,
just
it's a lot tougher now than it was then. And it's funny because people would have thought it was tough then too. But it's only tougher now because you really have to be doing something spectacular or special to stand out in the crowd now. But then not only that, you have to be able to continue to do that to sustain that because people's attention spans nowadays are just like, oh yeah, remember that guy like last month, like that did this thing? Like, what was his name again? Like, who knows? You know what I mean? We moved on to the next meme or the next exciting thing or the next trendy thing happening on social media. So it's one thing to get people's attention. It's even harder now to keep people's attention.
when you started to see some successes. How do you choose who you wanted to go work with? Because at some point you're going to get to choose as opposed to just saying you got to do whatever you got to do, and then you get that success, and now you have the ability to say, pick and choose who you want to work with. What's important to you when you were looking at doing something with a singer or artist?
That they're a good person. So it always started off with me. I never went into a room with somebody and was like, all right, let's get to work and make music. It was always, let's talk. So we would hang out for an hour, 2, 3 hours, and I'd get to know that person. Cause like making great stuff is like, that's the easy part. Right. But like the sincerity and the authenticity of you being a decent person with integrity, we spend a little time with somebody, you'll realize if they are or they're not.
Yeah, I think I would argue, like I had this conversation all the time about who's a good person, and there's a lot of people who they're not necessarily good people, they're not bad people, they just don't go that extra level to be good people, but you have to be, have human decency and common courtesy. So there's such a fine line between being a good person and not. I think the people that aren't, you can obviously identify quickly, and then there's a lot of people who try and like pretend that they're good people. They want it to appear that they're good people, but that's just a facade.
Yeah, but real recognize real, right? So if I'm with somebody, you're not gonna fool me. I can tell from your body language. I can tell from the hesitation in the words between your words. I can tell in the way that you like blink. I can tell in the way that you put your hand up to your head. Like there's a lot of things that I'll be able to tell and indicate, if you're being sincere and who you are and what your agenda really here is at this meeting. And by the way, you're not a bad person if you walked in and said, look, man, I don't really want to build a friendship. I just want to make dope records. That doesn't make you not a good person now. In fact, that's awesome. That's part of you being a good person. You get right to the fucking point and you're honest and transparent. So like there's different definitions of good, so to your argument, like, look, obviously, like, the Catholic Church looks at somebody as a different good, right? Than like, maybe I do. You know what I mean? So like I look at good as different, and it's subjective to whatever you feel a good person is, right? Some people think that storming the Capitol is a good person. You know what I mean? Like I don't agree with that. You know what I mean? So some people have different definitions of what a good person is, but realistically, at the end of the day, a good person is someone that has good intentions, somebody that is here to do the right thing, would do the right thing, and if nobody was looking, they would do the right thing. So
I don't, I don't think any good people would think that storming the castle would be good, but that's for
you'd
another.
be surprised, man. It's funny because, and I don't want to get into politics, but like, there's a lot of people that I know that, short of knowing what they believe in, if I didn't know that, they're a good person. And then all of a sudden I find these and I'm like, wait, how can you be the same person?
Yeah, I encounter that. I get it. I get that.
Yeah, it's
I think
crazy.
like also, controversy in the music world. Let's take Jason Aldean, for example, the whole Jason Aldean situation. I don't know Jason. I would think he's a good person just based on a lot of stuff. And the song on its own, it's not a big deal. But when you start to watch the video, you start to see things like how is that a part of your video? It can't be an accident. So he obviously trusted someone who there's no way some of this stuff could be a coincidence. And you got to be careful with what you put out there.
Yeah.
You should stand up for what you believe in, and I do that myself. I'm very opinionated and stand up. And I feel like if I'm on the right side of history, I'll be loud about it. But you got to be real careful about who you work with. But that doesn't make you a bad person. It just means I don't know. I guess it's everyone has their own opinion on that.
Look, not telling the truth doesn't mean you're lying, right? So it's the same thing with everything that we're talking about. Like a lot of times, like, I'm not saying Jason Aldean did this, but sometimes people do stand for something, and then when they get too much hot water, all of a sudden, like, I didn't know, like this was an accident, or somebody else did things, or and that, again, going back to a good person is going to stand for what they stand for, regardless if it gets too hot. You know what I mean? So like, even if it's a bad thing you're standing for, part of being a good person is standing for it. However, also having an open mind when presented with new information to be willing to change that stance. Somebody that's unwilling to change their stance despite logic, rationale, evidence, new information, is that a good person? Not really. A good person is someone that can grow, that can listen, that can communicate, that can compromise, that can understand. You know what I mean? So like, I'll be wrong all day. I don't care if I'm being wrong is awesome, because now it helps me get to right. You know what I mean? So like, I don't have an ego that's like, well, I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm going to fight this to the death. Even no matter how much proof you present me, I got to stand by what I believe in. Well, what I believe in is me, and I believe in my ability to care, and I believe in my ability to compromise and to listen and to grow and evolve. So, if you're going to believe in something, then believe in your abilities to be able to continue to improve and be a better person for the world, for for your family, and for everybody else.
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing for me. I believe I'm a good person, and every day I'm working to do better. And my friend will make a comment, "Oh, when did you become this or that?" I was like, "What's the difference? Even if it starts today, to be better towards the people who are disadvantaged or whatever segment of the population it is. I'm aiming to be a better person and to try and encourage other people to do the same. It's never too late to start.
It's never too late. And like, a friend, to your friend's point, and maybe he's a good dude too, but like the problem is going back to earlier when people can't fathom you doing things, right? So people like that will say like, oh, when did you be? They'll keep holding on to the past because they don't have the ability to let go of who you are. Like, look how many people were criminals come out and they're reformed, right? But we still regard them as a criminal, or we still treat them like the same guy. Like, I was a teenager, right? Doing dumb shit. Like, and now I'm in my 40s. Do you think I'm the same dude like when I was in the teenager? No. But if somebody remembers me then and sees me now, they're like, ah, fuck that dude. He was a thug. And it's like, you think I'm the same person in my 40s? I got 3 kids. I built multiple businesses. Like, who could be the same person? And the people that are the same people that they were are those that just simply have a deficiency and don't have the ability to grow and evolve. And it goes back to everything that I just said. They're not willing to listen to new things. They stop learning at a certain point and think they have all the information that they know. I'd argue if it's not being a great person if you're are in a often judgment of others. I'm not sure what that
I don't know.
person
You
was
have to
saying.
give us more context of what he was talking about. But that, that's also a question of nature versus nurture. Like, you probably got into the criminal stuff more out of necessity. There are some
Right.
people who just, it's kind of who they are. And maybe it's because of how they grew up, but there's still inherently something about them and their personality that is going to lean towards that. Like, if you
Well,
had,
there's a bunch of reasons. There's a bunch of reasons. Some people are just looking for the cheat code. They
yeah,
don't want to work. They don't want to, like, put the elbow grease in or think about or figure out ways to make a honest career. 2, some people are doing it out of survival just to get to a point where they don't have to do it anymore. Right. And then when you're young, like I was, you don't know better. Like, I had no guidance. I had no one telling me right from wrong. Although, obviously,
I still think right from wrong, but it doesn't mean anything to you. Maybe.
yeah. So the point I was getting at was right from wrong, meaning like you don't understand at an early age consequences.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, of course, breaking into someone's house is wrong.
Yeah.
Right. But like the way in which you do it and the thought behind why you're doing it, because you don't know better when you're a kid. Right. You don't think about, man, this person worked really hard to buy this thing for three years. They worked and saved up. And now you just fucking took their whole shit. Like, you don't think about those things when you're a kid, right? Which is why a lot of kids are punks and like act a certain way or feel like they can't die when they like go fight somebody from another town because I don't know, they're from another town, right? And like just like all the dumb things we do as kids. And one example I've always thought about since I was a kid, when you see kids walk across the street and they just strut slowly, like, yeah, you should fucking stop for me while I'm walking across the street. It's like, motherfucker, you can die. Like, and like, but kids aren't thinking that. They're thinking like, who's going to hit me? Yeah, right. Try to hit me. It's like,
adults are the same way now. Think about when we always have what about my freedom of speech? It's the freedom. There's no freedom from consequence. Everything we do has consequences. You can do what you want. And if you want to stroll across the street, that's fine. But someday someone might hit you and that might be the end of it. It almost doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong.
And then you're like, don't you wish you fucking jogged now when a car was coming?
Yeah,
and it's like that person could, like, it could have been that he's walking looking like, oh, they're gonna stop. That person's texting because they're fighting with their girl and it's a teenager too, or like whatever it is. And then boom, lives have changed forever. When all you had to do was be like, oh man, there's a car coming. Let me lightly jog out of harm's way. But like, you don't think of things like that when you're a teenager, right? And like, unfortunately, a lot of adults don't think about consequences and the actions that they have too. But those are the people that haven't evolved or aren't willing to listen or understand new ways of life.
I think for me, if you're starting to figure out the type of person someone is, it would be there's 2 doors, and which one are you going to choose? Am I going to choose to go down this one, which is like a little nefarious behavior, or I'm going to work hard and go here? And you have a moment where you have that choice, and you had that moment back right before that the bank incident, and you chose the other way. And I think that's the difference. That tells the character of you and who you are, and you've expanded on that to become who you are now, which is obviously still different, but
Well, we all have that ability. It's the mark of one's greatness, whether they want to exercise it or not.
Yeah.
People can we all can make this. We all have choices. We all have decisions. We all know right from wrong, especially as we get older. There's endless opportunities in the world, like endless. Like, making money is not a hard thing, right? Making friends is not a hard thing. Having rational conversations with the goal to come to a resolution is not a hard thing. Life is easy. People make it hard because of their deficiencies or because of their limited understanding of things or because of their ill beliefs. Like, they make it hard.
I mean, you talked about, I think it's, again, back before can't get out of your own way. You talked somewhere about competing with yourself and not others.
Mm-hmm.
You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So, we all hear, especially nowadays with everybody like life gurus and giving out game online and their captions and stuff, we all hear stuff like, oh, you should only compete with yourself. But, I took it a step further, you should only compete with yourself because when you're competing with others, you're only aiming to be their best, which may never be as good as your best, but you'll never know that if you just compete with somebody else. So like even coming up as a DJ to now, I never cared what another DJ, what record he got, what platinum record he got rewarded, or I never cared. I made a plan and realistic goals for what I wanted. And that's all that mattered. Somebody else's, like, part of giving a shit about your plan is not giving a shit about somebody else's. Right. So like, you need to focus on your plan, on what you're trying to do. And if that guy wins, great, good for him. Like, you don't sit there worrying about what about that guy or what about this or how come they have that or I should be getting this and that. It's like, all right, man, if you want to use it for any incentive, then look at it like, okay, I need to work harder, or I'm not doing what that person's doing, or I got to figure out a way to get to that spot. Like, an example I use is if you're a football player and you're on the field and you get the ball and your only goal is to run to the end zone and get a touchdown. That's your only goal. You practice all week, you run drills, you watch the tapes, you read the playbook, you're in huddles. Like, it's all one goal: get to the end zone and win the game. If I'm running down the field and I got the ball and I get through an open lane, I'm heading to the end zone, and some idiot in the stands insults me or yells something, am I going to stop running, throw the football down, and go address that guy? Like, fuck no. I don't give a fuck about that guy. He's not part of my
I've seen that
plan.
in a movie somewhere, or maybe a Family Guy episode.
Like, he's not part of my plan. Like, so you have to stay focused on what your plan is. And part of your plan is ignoring other shit that's not part of your plan. But people get distracted or, knocked off their feet over dumb shit, like a negative comment online. Who gives a shit what that person has to say? I don't fucking know them. They don't know what I'm doing every day and how I'm getting to where I'm going to. That could be the biggest loser in life. And I'm going to let him affect the great life that I built with intention, by design, when that guy might not even pay his child support. Like that guy's a loser if he doesn't pay his child support, but he's going to tell me how to be a man or how to do business. So, people get knocked off guard like all the time by the stupidest shit. All you got to do is decide what you want to be, who you want to be, make a realistic plan of how you're going to get there, make realistic milestones that you must celebrate. Because if you don't keep track of your life, you don't know if you're winning or you're losing. So you must keep score. And by the way, realistic is a key term in there. Because a lot of people, most people, so what do you want? Man, I'm just trying to be rich. Cool. That's a great idea. What's your plan to get rich? And there's a big difference between an idea and a plan. And most people don't see the difference in that.
No, there's a big difference between having an idea and a company or a sellable product or service too. There's a big,
even when I was coming up, right? People got mad at me one time because he's like, oh, I'm a DJ. I'm like, oh, where do you DJ? Well, I'm in my college dorm. I go, so you're an aspiring DJ, right? And he goes, no. I go, man, I didn't even call myself a DJ till I started getting paid for it. Of course, I was DJing in my bedroom for 10 years, but because I'm a girl at home and I take pictures of myself and post selfies, am I a model? I posted pictures of myself. It's not a model. You're not a DJ because you're an aspiring model. You're an aspiring DJ. And that's another difference too, especially with young generation. People think in their mind, I want to be this. And now they're that on the internet. So to you, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Oh, really? Tell me about your cap table. Tell me how you came up with your valuation. Tell me, let's talk about what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Because you're not only are you an entrepreneur, you're a serial entrepreneur. So have you exited companies? Have they failed? How'd you create your org chart? Let's talk about all the things that an entrepreneur would need to know to be an entrepreneur, let alone a serial entrepreneur. But everybody thinks because they watch videos and they understand theories of selling on Amazon, or they watch Gary Vee, or they read a book or went to a conference, that now they're a seasoned professional with experience, that now is that thing that they think that they want to be. The new hustle today is let me build a course or a book or start a page to teach people how to be a better them, when you're still trying to figure out who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, why the fuck would we listen? Where are your receipts? What have you been doing? When did you win, repeat so many times that now you have all this wealth of knowledge to teach us how to do the same thing? Like, you have to pay attention to the messenger and not just the message, because there's so many messages out there that sound like it makes sense, but of course, because it's regurgitated from somebody else that actually did the work.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, but I would also say sometimes it's important to take heed of the message and not the messenger. Be like, if I said something and I was in the same room as, let's say, Gary Vee says the same thing, he's going to be looking upon it as like, oh, it's a genius, he said it, and I'll get crickets, even though we say the same thing. So
there's no substance behind somebody who gives advice for something that hasn't been extremely successful at the thing you're trying to do. So yeah, you might say something clever, but it's an empty house, right? Now, if Gary Vee says it, you have all the receipts and credibility in history of 20 years of doing this to say, when he says it, I believe it, because it's an ability you must have, which is believability, right? So like, sure, anyone can sit there and come up with a clever quote or a clever line. Whoop-de-fucking do. We all speak English. Like, we all know how to talk and think. But like, to say it is way different than like to have lived it and to have excelled in it. So to your point, whether it's you, Gary, or somebody else versus somebody else, like, yeah, well, that's because this person has built such credibility and experience that people are going to listen. If Jay-Z tells you how to build your own independent label to be successful, or a guy in your neighborhood who has never done it, but
of course, that's someone who's talking about their experience. But I'm just
right, but has read books and sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and it makes sense. Like, Jay-Z's words are going to hold so much more weight than the guy around your neighborhood that tells you. Doesn't mean he's wrong, but it's the weight that comes behind it.
I want to talk a little bit about music. I'm a collector. I love to collect things, and the things I've been getting into lately are 8-tracks. I don't even have a player, but I just kind of like it. One of my favorite guys in the world, J.D. Iker, an independent singer-songwriter. Been doing some record store day, Beastie Boys, and I got an old Tom Petty special.
Nice.
Do you have anything from your career, like memorabilia? I see stuff in the back, but House on Fire. What do you, kids and family and pets and everything important out? What are you grabbing?
Nothing.
Grab one.
As long as my family's safe.
No, of course. But if you can just grab one thing, is there something that kind of has a good meaning for, not necessarily money value, just a meaning for you?
No, nothing has such strong meaning that, like, I pretty much have, if I have my family outside safe,
of course, yeah,
everything, yeah, we're on the same page. But I'm saying, like, there's nothing else. I'm like, fuck, like, because I got the most important stuff. Everything else is just, it can be replaced. I can do it again. It pales in comparison to that. So no, it's funny because I gave away a lot of my plaques when I moved from Boston to California. It would have cost me like thousands. And at that point I went through a divorce and I was like broke, lost all my money, became a millionaire, and then lost it all. And then so I was moving. I remember I was looking at it, I'm like, fuck, man, what am I going to do with all these? And the woman that worked at the storage place was like, I'll take them. And I was like, really? You want these plaques? It was like Snoop Dogg and Mobb Deep and like a whole bunch of plaques, platinum plaques. And she's like, I'd love to hang these on my wall. Yeah. And I was like, all right, you can have them. You know what I mean? So it's like, everyone's like, are you crazy? Why would you get rid of those? Like, you worked to receive those. But it was like, I moved on.
Yeah, it's
right. Plaque. So like, I will tell you the one thing that did devastate me a little bit, and if these still existed, it would be the thing I grab. I have my whole career filmed. So I had a video camera on since 99, right? And I stored them at my mom's house, and she got a pod and put everything in the pod in our driveway. And she kept saying, "Come get your stuff, come get your stuff." But you know how parents are, get your shit out of my house, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll come get it. I'll come get it. I kept saying, I'll come get it, right? And then she put it in her pod. I guess she didn't pay the bill, and they repossessed the pod with
They took
my
it off.
life in it.
That's
So
crazy.
it's gone. Like my whole career in the studio with Eminem, in the studio with Swizz Beats,
Somebody's got it.
it's all gone. So
Yeah.
like if you can get over deleting the history of your life and starting over,
Yeah.
there's really nothing else important to grab onto except your family.
What? Tell us real quick about the podcast that you do.
Sure, it's called Win Big with Clinton Sparks. It frequents the top 30 position on the business category on Apple. It's available anywhere. We have everybody from Damon John to Shaquille O'Neal to T.I., Sway Lee, Rob Dyrdek, Nolan Bushnell, the creator of Atari and Chuck E. Cheese, to Bozoma St. John, who was like, in the marketing hall of fame. So, DJ Drama, everybody's on the show. So basically what I do in the show is, what I made a career out of my whole radio history was asking people questions that most people don't ask, right? And talking about things that most people don't talk about, and making people feel comfortable enough to come to, put their guard down and talk about things that typically somebody else might ask, they'd get mad at, right? So that's kind of how I made my career. So it was an awesome depiction of my show as an entertaining mix of Jimmy Fallon meets Gary Vee meets TED Talk. That's what the editor of Vibe magazine said. And I was like, that's kind of what it is. He kind of hit the nail on the head. So it's funny. Like, I'll have game shows on there with Fat Joe and Akon, where I ask them crazy questions. And then, so it's entertaining, it's funny, it's informative. It's definitely put together to help people learn new paths to get over obstacles, to learn how to win big in life, which again is subject to your definition of winning big. Some people just looking to get married. Some people looking to be a millionaire. Some people looking to just not hurt anymore. Right. So like, there's different definitions of winning big, and that's what we cover on the show.
Sounds
Which
sounds a lot like the Wolf Den with some lesser known people. We've had a few celebrities on the Wolf Den, but that's what we aim to do here. What's Defender of Happy?
So I'm a big believer. I was just being funny when I wrote that, but one of the books I'm writing is called Defend Happy. I'm almost finished with another book that'll be available in a few months. But next year I plan on having two more. One of them is Defend Happy. People go their whole life trying to find happy or chasing the things they think will make them happy. Whether it's a new car or, new body or new relationship, new job, whatever it is, right? Everybody has their own definition of happy, and they spend their whole life chasing it. But one thing, like, I'll give you an example for me. Like, I was chasing happy, right? And I'm as happy as I could be now. Like, like I said, I built my life by design. I decided what I wanted, and I worked hard to get it, and I built it, and I'm content. Like, that's the other thing. People are never happy enough. They always want something bigger. They always want more money. They always want more. I'm content, right? So what people don't do when they do get to a happy place is understand or actively defend happy. And that's a whole concept and theory behind that, from creating boundaries, from, in my position, for instance, like, to me, family doesn't mean forever. Your family could be the people that are actually the ones fucking you up or hurting you or preventing you from moving forward. So I have a whole philosophy behind that. There are some people that are like, no matter what, family. And it's like,
I
cool.
told I tell my mom that all the time. Is that you're not owed anything just because you're my mom. There's plenty of people who don't talk to their mom, brother, sister, father, son. People don't talk to their cousins and nieces and
Now,
nephews.
look, I'm not promoting
Oh,
that
of
to
course.
happen, right? Like, there's nothing better than having a loving, nurturing, caring family, which I've now built, and I have. And I love my life. I love my wife. I love my family. Everything's going. I live as perfect of a life as one could ask for, right? But I built it intentionally for what I wanted, and now I work really hard to defend it. Whether that's my time, creating boundaries with people, being financially responsible, making sure that I'm giving them the attention that they need when they need it, understanding their feelings. So, I'll never be unhappy, because even like in the unfortunate, untimely death of somebody that I love, like I've built such a strong foundation of happiness that I will understand that that was just part of life. And that's part of like, why? Well, if you're a person of faith, you know why.
Yeah.
The plan was already put in place, right? Before, so like, there's a lot of things like, you can go down so many different. The difficult thing about doing like podcasts and interviews is like I know when I say something, I already know the 10 different paths to go down to respond
Yeah.
to 10 different responses that will come to that answer. But I obviously can't answer them all. So you'll have one person say this, one person say this. And it's like when I talk, I'm talking to the presumably majority that I like to believe is the majority that thinks sensibly, has common sense, and can accept logic, right? Of course, there's going to be people that often, well, dude, that doesn't make sense. Like, why? And it's just like, all right, dude, I can sit and spend time with you and make you understand it clearly, and hopefully you will at the end. But maybe you're unfixable and you're one of those people that aren't willing to change no matter how much information comes to you. So
Yeah.
I can only go so far with you. What people's job is, it is not me or you or someone else to convince people to think a different way. It's up for people within themselves to be willing to want to potentially see new ways of thinking. Whether that's how you're now going to think is beside the point. You understanding other ways of thinking will help you be a better, well-rounded person when having conversations, when communicating, and especially when leading, whether it's your family or a company. If you don't understand how to walk in someone else's shoes, or you can't respect or accept somebody else's feelings, needs, desires, vulnerabilities, fears, all those things, then you're just stuck in this tiny fucking little world that you'll never grow past for, and you'll never grow to be really fantastic because you're not fantastic.
Yeah. A couple of quick fire questions and then we'll let you go. Someone you never worked with that you would love to work with.
Freddie Mercury.
How about someone alive?
Uh, um, I don't think there's anybody alive that if I wanted to work with, I couldn't. Not because of my success, but because of my tenacity to get done what I want to get done. So if there was something like, man, I really want to work with that person, I'd figure out a way to get in touch with them. And I guarantee you, I would soon be working with them at some point, despite all these behind me. It's how I made my career.
Yeah.
Even at the beginning, like when I got in offices, I was a fucking nobody. Right. And like I walked in and it's the way that you talk. It's the confidence, but not cockiness. It's enough confidence that they're like, man, this motherfucker knows what he's talking about. Actually, I need to keep him around. I might learn from him. Right. So it's like going back to understanding people's feelings. You're never selling a product. You're never selling a service. You're always selling a feeling. So when you understand what people need to feel, you can pretty much sell anything to anybody. Now, there are some people that could take that philosophy and do it in a manipulative, negative way. And then there are other people that can use that and learn how to lead people to greatness, right? Because they understand like sometimes you got to get people out of their own way. So you got to manipulate them, right? And people look at manipulation as a negative, evil word. But think about how many times you have to like kind of finesse the situation so your girl doesn't jump the gun before you get done what you got to get done. Then it's surprise, like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. Had you seen the process of me doing that, you might have thought I was cheating on you, right? Or you would have thought I was doing something wrong. So a lot of times you got to manipulate situations for the betterment of the end result.
Give me someone you've never seen perform that you would like to. And obviously, I know you have access to that, but is there someone you haven't seen yet that you'd be like, oh, it'd be cool to see? I haven't seen Taylor Swift or Ed Sheeran. Those are probably the two on my list, but I've seen almost everyone
I kind of
once.
almost, I mean, Prince, but again,
Yeah.
um, I think Prince probably would have been the only person. Like, I don't look when you've been to as many shows and you've
Oh,
performed
I
as much as I have, it's like you've seen it all and it's kind of all the same. right? So even if you love their music, it's like, yeah, I know exactly what you're going to do, what you're going to do between the songs, da, da, da. So maybe an intimate acoustic session with Hall and Oates.
There you go.
Like maybe that, like somebody like that, or like Billy Joel. I just seen Billy Joel in concert at the SoFi Stadium recently with Stevie Nicks. But like just being in a small room where we're just talking to him and he's like playing the piano, like that would be pretty sick.
Who's the most underrated in hip hop and in the hip hop world over your career? It could be from decades ago.
You mean somebody famous that doesn't get the shine they should get, or someone no one knows?
Someone famous that you think should.
I don't think Ludacris gets as much props as he should get. He's
I'm at
never.
the Super Bowl at the Playboy party at the Super Bowl. Great performance.
Yeah, I don't think that people like, you don't hear his name as like one of the greats. You know what I mean? He's just famous. But like I think Ludacris is definitely underrated as being like one of the greats if we're talking hip hop.
Yeah, the music world now, is it how are we? What condition are we in now as opposed to a decade ago, the 80s, the 90s? Is it as good as it was before? Is it getting better? Is there
Well, that
reason?
was like a shotgun question because when you started it, I had an answer. Then you took it back to the 80s and 10 years ago, and now you like made it so much more broader. But like I'll tell you right now that the consensus and the rumblings that you can start to feel bubbling is people are sick of the same old disposable. Now I'm talking hip hop. Like I got more chicks than you. I sell more drugs. I got more money and chains and jewelry than you. I drive better cars than you. Like we're all and the production. It's all cookie cutter. It's all the same. So much technology and like you know, producer packs come out that like literally like anybody can just be a producer now. And it used to be a skill, like either making the music and playing it and coming from a feeling, or like searching for samples and manipulating them in such a cool, unique way that made it awesome. But like now it's just like it's already done for you. I'm going to take that loop. I'm going to take this drum loop. I'm going to do this, and it's done. And now I'm a producer. I think that a lot of people, without knowing this is what they're feeling, they want to go back to an analog world where the excitement and the thrill of somebody real, somebody new, somebody interesting. I think that, you know, you're old enough to remember this, is that there's no like superstars anymore. Like the other day I went down a Michael Jackson rabbit hole, and I'm just thinking about there will never be that kind of fanfare. Now you could say, well, Taylor Swift, no, but she's also been around
She's
for
getting
over a
close,
decade.
but I agree with you.
Right. Right. And like, and then you can have trends. You can have like trendy things like BTS comes through and everybody gets excited. But I'm talking about like the Prince, like a
People
Michael
were
Jackson,
fainting. People were at a Michael Jackson concert and just fainting because they were in like the
but
presence
like
of.
there's no allure, there's no mystery to who these people are anymore. It's like, you know, you were curious to learn more, but now we know too much. And now like artists like feel the need to share everything and talk about everything to engage and interact with their fans, because unfortunately, if you're not alive every day online, you're dead tomorrow. So it's like I miss the days when the music spoke for that person. And it was kind of I'll give you one quick story because I know we're getting ready to wrap up. Do you know who Teddy Riley is?
Teddy Riley.
Teddy Riley is, you know, one of the most prolific music producers of our time. He's produced from Michael Jackson. He like everybody. He's produced for everybody. He created New Jack Swing, the sound of music. So you know him from No Diggity. He's the singer of No Diggity, right? So that's what you would know him from. But like, you know, Guy, you know, Blackstreet, Michael Jackson, Heavy D. He's all I want to do is zoom, a zoom, 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 and the boom, boom. That's Teddy Riley, right? So so he's a legend. He's the guy that made me want to be a producer, right? Just the chord progressions, like just gave me like goosebumps. And like I remember when I was working with a band that he was executive producing, they were like, Teddy Riley wants to meet you. Like I didn't even want to meet him because I don't want to know that he's a real person. Like I don't want to know that he like disrespects women, or like he's a shitty dude, or he's a money hungry fuck. Like I just wanted to look at him as a god of music that inspired me to become who I am. And it's funny. So I'm overseas touring, and with this on Skype back then, and he was trying to Skype me, and I couldn't we couldn't get through. And I just heard him go, because he got a soft voice. He's like, "Hey, Clinton, are you there?" And I'm just like, "Oh my God." Like I got anxiety and goosebumps. Like I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to meet him. And I kept telling everybody I don't want to meet him. Just tell me what he wants. Right. And then finally I met him and he was an awesome guy and paid me the greatest compliments. And we're friends now to this day. He just got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he's just a really top-notch guy. But the point is, I didn't even want to meet this dude.
A lot of people
I
don't want to meet their heroes because they don't want to find out that maybe it's
like, you imagine if you sat with Billy Joel at his house that he's probably a fucking awesome dude that's just a regular hard-working blue-collar guy like us that made it good and could write songs that touch us all and connect with us all. But if I sit there and hear him start talking about, yeah, this fucking guy, and I'm like, damn. Like, you know what I mean? Like, fuck, man, you ain't even really like what your songs talk about. Like, I don't want to know that stuff.
I
Right?
played the hell out of Rex and Effects in K7. I don't know why they didn't get any bigger than they were, but those were my jams back in the day.
Yeah. Well, Teddy Riley was Rex and Effects, and he went on to become the biggest.
We're going to let you out of the Wolff Den with the same question everyone gets. You can spend 24 hours with anybody in the world. They have to be alive, and you can't be related to them. Who would you choose, and what would you guys do? Obviously, you have access to a lot of people, but this could be anyone. It doesn't have to be in the music world, just someone.
Wait, do we die after 24 hours?
Living.
I just get to be with them for 24 hours.
You're living. Just 24 hours. We're going to make it happen. Who's it going to be, and what are you guys doing?
Probably Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett. Yeah, he's been mentioned with 300 something episodes. He's been mentioned a few times, him with Bill Gates. You guys will do what? Obviously talk business and just trade some stories.
No, I'm more interested in everything around the business.
Yeah.
So I'd want to learn about, how he thinks about life, what he's in such a long life, what he's been through, how his mind has changed throughout time and what made it change. I wouldn't ask like the best ways to invest in that. I wouldn't ask that stuff. I would want to understand like how his mind works, what makes him tick, like the reason how his mind's evolved over years and what he's accepted and some of the because learning that stuff, now I'll inadvertently understand how he makes decisions or why he does those other things. And most people really kind of go in. Most people don't want to look under the hood. They just want to see how the car looks.
I like looking under the hood and getting beneath the surface and conversation.
Yeah. So that's why even doing music, like I was saying, if I sit with you and talk to you and I learn who you are, now I can write better because I know like what you've been through, what you feel, how you think, what means something to you, how you feel, what you think about the world, what you want people to think about you. So like, it's not like a survey, but during the course of having a conversation, if I understand these things, it's just like, look, man, when you're dating somebody and you meet somebody for the first time and you're learning them, most people do that to see if they fit them or if they make sense for them. Most people aren't sitting there thinking, let me find out this information to make sure I'm right for them, right? They don't do that. So if we did that more often, we'd figure out things a lot more and we'd have less divorces. We'd have better relationships because you would have it. And this also goes back to the beginning of this conversation, self-awareness. Like you would have to know where you suck a little bit, right? And know like where you're going to disappoint or where you're going to inevitably not meet the standards that they have for themselves, that they want in a relationship. And if you can do it, like, I don't think I could be this. I am now, but I'm not sure if I would always be this kind of guy for you. But people don't do that. Then you grow apart, and then you start getting resentment. Then you fight because you're two different people, and you expect the other person to change. And it's like if you weren't willing to change at the beginning when you do some of the things she didn't like, what the fuck would you change for now?
No, so, it's not going to happen. Have you asked him to be on Win Big with Clinton Sparks?
Warren Buffett?
Yeah,
I have not.
That's probably a good first step.
Wait, is that a question somebody asked, or you just asked that?
No, I'm asking that because I've emailed and reached out to Oprah and Ellen and I mean anyone, Howard Stern to see if they want to come on the show. You never know. I mean, I think it doesn't matter how popular you are or how famous you are. I have people who have no idea who you are, and also with the style of question I get, which is similar to what you do, having conversation that they wouldn't get to understand that stuff if they just saw them on a Jimmy Fallon or if they were interviewed by someone. So I think there's value to going on, shows like this that even though, you just never know who's listening.
Right. There's also levels, right? And there's also time management, right? So people that are doing really fantastic things in life and got a lot of things going on, and people that rely on them, and they've accomplished as much as they've accomplished. It's a matter of like, is it worth my time? You only have so much time in life, right? So it's like, I would never, like, as successful as I am, dude, for the first half of my career, I was already like platinum selling, like I was already a popular dude. I still was like, I'm not at a level yet because I have high standards for myself, right? So like to me, Warren Buffett, I wouldn't even ask him yet because I don't think my audience is large enough for it to have an impact or an effect for him to spend his time doing that when he could be feeding a much bigger audience more information. It would be selfish of me to say, let me take your time to better my show to feed 20,000 people when you can maybe do this thing that feeds 1,000,000 people. When I get to that level, that's when I'll call you, because now I know it's not just a one-way thing. I'm helping you get your word out to people now too in a much grander scale.
Well, I think we never know who's in the audience, and the smaller audience might be the right
For
people.
sure, for sure. There's right on both. There's right on both sides, but at the same time, I'm telling you how people that level think.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
Right.
I get it. Well, this is 300 episodes. Warren Buffett's on the list. You're 302. Really appreciate your time. Looking forward to what's next. You can check out the podcast on all channels. You can hear some of his music on Spotify and Apple. Go to the website, get more information. Sign up for the newsletter. Get familiar. Really appreciate your time, and looking forward to talking to you someday down the road.
Thank you, Matt. And dude, congratulations on all your success. I'm really excited about the concept of you finding what you wanted to do, figuring it out, and pushing through until it became successful. And then, look at, to your point, this show like this, even if 5 people are watching, you have somebody great on here, you might have changed 5 people's lives, right? So the fact that you're doing that and giving yourself and your time and energy to not just do the show, but reach out to people and constantly try to convince people to come on the show. Like, a lot of times people don't even take that into consideration. They don't think about how much effort you put in to just make this 1 hour happen for them. Do you know what I'm saying? It's for them.
Yeah, it's for them.
Yeah.
There's no topic here, so it's all about whoever the guest is and how they can entertain, educate, inform, motivate, all of that for the
Right.
guests. And it only takes one person to change.
You're a giver and a servant of the people from creating something like this. So good on you, Matt.
Thanks a lot, Clinton. We'll talk to you soon. New episode tomorrow, so tune in and have a great night.